Question is, this bill be now read a second time. I call the member for Maitland.
As someone who's worked in transport and logistics for over half my working life, I can't quite believe the actions of this government in relation to the rail line. The bill's been a long time coming. It's a ridiculous bill that shows that this government has no idea what's going on in transport, and at the 11th hour, the third planning minister on this job is going to have a go at making this dodgy deal legal through talking to his transport minister to push this through. Before the Supreme Court case appeal shows once again that they should never have tried to do what they're doing. Just in the last 5 years, this shoddy deal has been through 2 premiers, 3 planning ministers, 2 transport ministers, 4 by-elections, Newcastle, Charlestown, the mayoralty of Newcastle, Ward 3, 2 elections in 11 and 15, ICAC, an upper house inquiry, a Supreme Court case and an appeal which they're going to lose shortly. When will the Baird Government understand that no means no? Like a sad Christmas carol, these lot have been just pulling out the partridges out of the pear tree and singing these tired old lines of Christmas carols like the members opposite today, who have no conviction, no understanding, no interest in the people of Newcastle or the wider Hunter region. This government's done everything it can to bully and bluster its way through this issue since it did its most spectacular backflip back in 2012. In fact, I'm told that prior to 2011, not only did Barry O'Farrell and Robin Parker ride the train from Newcastle to Maitland, saying what a wonderful piece of infrastructure it was, Barry even wore a Save Our Rail badge on that day. And I pay special mention here to Jane Dawson and Kim Cross of Save Our Rail, who've been the major drivers of this campaign over the past 4 or so years and longer, and agitated for the government to be honest and clear with the community on this issue. When they could not get clarity, they took the government to court. The government lost. The government appealed the decision and again continues the planning of the rail truncation. The government's living in a fantasy land that just because they want to sell off the corridor, they should be able to do it. It doesn't matter what the law of the land says, it doesn't matter what our communities and the hunters say, they can just sell it off without our consent. And there is no consent in the hunter. There is only one person in this place from the Hunter who has ever supported this, and that is the member for the Upper Hunter. And to be clear, he suffered more than 21% swing against him. He should have followed the advice of the former member for the Upper Hunter, who joined with the former member of Maitland, who both, as ministers, were reported to be against the truncation back in May 2012, based on the potential impacts of rail users in their electorates. In fact, according to the Newcastle Herald on the 2nd of May 2012, the former member for Maitland told Michelle Harris that Maitland's roads were under pressure from commuter traffic and the government should be encouraging transport use rather than removing infrastructure. Ms Parker said that the city could be still revitalised with a rail line in place, as it could help move students into the proposed city centre university campus. Even when the former member finally lost the fight in Cabinet in November 2012, according to the Maitland Mercury, she reiterated her previous commitment to fight for the efficient and streamlined public transport system that Maitland people deserved. But forget about the politics for a minute, forget about the broken promises on this matter, and just let's look at the planning aspects. In fact, it's a coincidence, is it a coincidence that at the recent budget estimates, the current planning minister, the third on the job, remember, when asked about why the government was considering development on the line when they had no legal right to do, just a couple of weeks later, we see the second Transport Minister on the project, having a rethink about this, and obviously he's had a chat with the third Planning Minister, and they've said, mate, I think we need to fix this up. So then they come in here with this bill and ram it through with no notice to us, no negotiation. It's just ridiculous. It's their typical, usual bully tactics. In fact, I'm advised, and I take this under advisement, I don't know the exact wording, but I am advised that the Minister for Transport told 2HD this morning that the government wants to be able to close railways without the need for an Act of Parliament. So, I mean, what are we all doing here? This government using their numbers in this place from people who do not represent the views of anyone in Newcastle or the Hunter to remove vital infrastructure. They keep referring to Karen Howard up there, the twice-failed candidate for Newcastle. That's why she's up there and he's down here, because she doesn't represent the views of the majority of Newcastle. They're using their numbers in this place They've unlawfully ripped up the essential rail infrastructure with no alternative in place. For all his talk of mandates, the Premier's been very silent since announcing that this election would be a mandate for the people of Newcastle. How much more of a mandate does he need? Even the member for Lake Macquarie, who spoke in this place recently, not of the Labor Party, even he doesn't agree with it. The most important aspect of this bill is that the government is trampling over the governance and democracy of our regions. This should be a warning to every single person in New South Wales, every single region in our state, that it doesn't matter if your government consistently and repeatedly rejects some stupid scheme for the benefit of a minority. If 204 people can sign a document and give it to that random guy from Goa in the other place, they're going to use their numbers in this place to go against your community. So it's not just a Hunter issue, it's an issue of governance and democracy for our whole community. And where is the member for Upper Hunter? Where is he representing the people in his place? He had people from Muswellbrook outside this door earlier yesterday. Is he going to be invisible like the former member for Maitland was when she finally lost it? Is he going down at a barbecue so he doesn't get grilled on this?
Call the Minister.
There's ongoing attacks against the member for Upper Hunter. I point out is a Childhood Cancer Research Foundation, so if you're going to make snide remarks about that in the House, I'd reflect a little bit more carefully about what you're saying.
Member for Maitland has a call.
I just have to say on that, I'd actually like to be at that barbecue too, but I'm here debating this ridiculous bill that you brought into the House. So we'd all like to be supporting childhood cancer, as I did last week, and I continue to do it forever. We want proper public transport. We want to reach our regional CBD. They went to the 2000 election on platform. They weren't going to remove that rail line. We had a briefing from Urban Growth the other day, and I said to them then, on the 26th of December, the government went in a forced, rushed attempt to rip up this rail line before the prorogation so that they could get it through. And what they did was basically said, we won the election, we've done the backflip, we're going to rip it up, so they wrecked it. They're just wreckers, total wreckers. And 9 months later, we've got nothing to show for this. And the same 3 stops on the train are still the same stops on the buses. There's no signage, there's no stops for other stops along that line. I suggested to Urban Growth, if you're real about this light rail, why don't you put the extra stops in place that you're promising for the light rail? Have they done that? No. If you catch the bus past Civic Station, you can get off near Scratchley's and you can get on, but there's no signage to tell you can do that. There's no timetabling like that. There's no investment in this decision from this government. Public transport is vitally important to the socio-economic strength, development and resilience of every community. It's a major social determinant of health, and distinguished transport and sociology academics like Janet and John Stanley from Monash University, David Hensher from the University of Sydney Institute of Transport and Logistics have been working on these issues for many, many years. They can draw you maps that show that communities that have got strong, reliable, frequent public transport are the ones that do the best. And you have a look at my region and it's got the highest unemployment rate in this state, and this government's just ripped the guts out of our public transport system so that people in Maitland can't go to Newcastle to get jobs. They can't easily go to Sydney to get jobs. It is a disgrace. To be clear, Labor started the revitalisation of Newcastle with the law courts and that university spaces outside Civic Station. The new Museum of Newcastle is located at Civic Station. I've seen preschoolers who couldn't afford to get a bus to go on an excursion to see the new museum at Newcastle get on that train. Little 4 and 5-year-olds that are getting an opportunity from Maitland to go and do that, and they can't do it now because the new museum station that had been renamed because of this is now closed. There are many restaurants along the foreshore within a 5-minute walk of Civic Station, major shopping, residential developments slated for the area, all not serviced by rail. It is foolish. The rail line is about giving people in Maitland and the further on beyond into the Upper Hunter the opportunity to directly connect with the major CBD in our region and then on to Sydney. It's about connectivity, transport and ultimately people. And I can tell you hundreds of stories. I can bore you to tears because I can see you bored because you don't care one hoot about the people in our electorates. And you will be the person who is to be responsible for this in future years. I've got people who've broken their feet, who've not being able to get to vital doctor's appointments, who've missed jobs, who've missed university because of the actions that your government has taken. Madam Speaker, can I just seek an extension of time, please?
You're seeking, is an extension of time being granted? Being granted.
As I said, I could fill another 10 speeches with stories of people who have been adversely affected by this decision, but I'll leave that full debate for another day, except to say the government has shown no vision for public transport in our community. The $400 million that they're going to spend on this rail line could have been spent on my hospital. It could have been spent on a fast train to Sydney with commuter carriages, with Wi-Fi, phone chargers and tables. It could have been spent on something that increased the efficiency, the effectiveness of our community. It could have been spent on a visionary plan to put Newcastle directly connected quickly within an hour from our major state capital, but you just don't care. It could have been building more stations to cope with growth in Maitland's western areas. It could have built the long-promised mobility access for stations like Victoria Street. Again, long promises broken since the Liberals were elected. This is a government without vision for Newcastle that's still bowing down to property developers who want that land because it is only the property in the CBD which is not undermined. Even after the Premier promised to grout large sections of the CBD at the last election, it's not enough for them. They always want more. Financially, this allows the government to, is silly, it's going to take their light rail down Hunter Street at the economic cost to the businesses that have existed along the line for many years at an additional cost of $100 million to our community. What a waste. This doesn't even address the major issue, the major justification that's come up in every single discussion about the rail line, good old Stewart Avenue. And we saw the Minister unveiling his wonderful, modern, we get told, interchange there, which has no facilities, not enough at all, and will, if they keep even just one of their promises on transport, just one promise, if you could keep that of the 10-minute frequency and the peak of those light rail carriages, that's going to happen in Stewart Avenue. Every 10 minutes, a light rail tram going past. Well, how do you think the commuters from Port Stephens, from Maitland, from the Upper Hunt, everyone who comes from there is going to think about that one? This bill is a disgrace. I want our community to have the chance for young people to get jobs. Good transport builds economic resilience, and with the highest unemployment rates in the state, we need Newcastle to Sydney, we need Maitland to be included in that, and you lot, yet again, no ideas, no vision, it's a disgrace.